Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and the topic of today's video is going to be the subject of choice. If you think these are cool topics and you like the channel, do subscribe and like the video. And without further ado, we dive straight into it. If you look at the title of this video, I chose the metaphor of arranged marriage as probably the most cringeworthy idea that we can think of to illustrate the topic of choice, especially in the modern West, but in general also in the modern world. So the thought that our parents would decide our lifetime partner, romantic partner for us, and the person whom with we will co-inhabit, raise children, and the rest of it is as dislikable as it gets to our notion of free will and the value that we place on our individuality and to our ability to make choices. I want to submit to you that there is something to be said about the freedom of choicelessness and what that brings to the table and how we have lost touch with that. And therefore we find ourselves bound and entangled by the burdensome task of making choices on a constant basis. The title is also related to a quote by Albert Camus, the philosopher. He became famous for saying that the only real decision in life was whether to commit suicide or not. And in essence, what he's saying is you are kind of stuck with it unless you take an out, which is definitive, and just decide that the game is really no longer worth the candle. And you go, you know what? I didn't pick this. I didn't choose this. It goes against everything in terms of my individuality, my free will. So I'm out. And so you kill yourself. The position that he takes is not as dark as it sounds in first instance. He says that your choice is whether to commit suicide or find true meaning in life. All right. So what we are left with then is a kind of rock and a hard place situation in which we are essentially discovering that we are in an arranged marriage with life. We didn't pick this. You didn't pick a single element of your life if you trace it back in enough steps. You didn't choose your family of origin or the country or the time in history in which you were born. You did not choose your genetics, and therefore you didn't choose any of your mental and emotional proclivities. You didn't choose your environment or how you would respond to it. And therefore, choice, in essence, is an illusion. It is a functional illusion, so we don't want to downplay that on a practical level. But if we start to cling to choicefulness as the way to find fulfillment in life, we're going to find out that it is actually an enormous burden that makes us very, very stressed and that ensnares the mind in a constant loop of trying to choose for the optimal circumstances and robs us of direct contact and direct perception with life. So I want to read a very quick passage that I found lately. I was rereading the Ashtavakra Gita, is one of these scriptures, and Ashtavakra Gita is one of the more succinct Gitas out there, but there's usually a translator's introductory text. And I found something that really caught my eye. He said, "Forgetting our original oneness, bound tightly in our imaginary separateness, we spend our lives mastered by a specious sense of purpose and value. endlessly constrained by our habit of individuation, the creature of preference and desire. We continually set one thing against another until the mischief and the misery of choice consumes us. But our true nature is pure and choiceless awareness. So, again, I purposefully selected the title of An Arranged Marriage with Life because the path of spirituality is an arrival to the realization that, to the degree that we insist on individualizing ourselves and exercising an endless succession of one choice against the next to try to maximize pleasure and reduce pain, we are completely ensnared by the thinking mind, which is a very thin and superficial layer of life, and rob ourselves of the real meaning and the real juice of life. So I chose the idea of an arranged marriage because it causes an immediate response of no freaking way I want that. There's no way I am going to relinquish my ability to choose my life partner, right? Like there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. And that is precisely the way in which the thinking mind operates. It is a tool to maximize safety, pleasure, comfort, certainty. And it is precisely that the kind of resistance that we are going to encounter when we try to dissolve the barriers that stand between our sense of individuality, our sense of having independent and individual free will, and the idea of merging and flowing with reality in a choiceless awareness type of way. Flow, the state of flow, is a state of choiceless awareness. So it just so happens that arranged marriages are not that bad when it comes to letting go of your choice and simply flowing into life. As it happens, our obsession with choice in the West and in modern society doesn't really pan out. Every study out there has shown that choice ends up being a burdensome and horrific way to sap away our energy and put us in a mental loop that can't get over itself. Even marriage itself seems to be quite healthy when it's arranged, right? And I don't think that anybody looking at divorce rates and the quality of relationships and dating out there can suggest that choice has been the one factor that made us happier and suddenly solved everything. I'm not a sociologist. I'm definitely not, a specialist in relationships or things of the kind. But from what I've seen, it's choicelessness seems to be the healthier option at the end of the day. But it is the most dislikable thing that you can propose to the thinking mind because it is the opposite of its function. So the thinking mind cannot fathom the idea of choicelessness as something that it wants because it goes against the grain of what that module of the mind is tasked to do, which is to individualize, separate things, and make choices about them. So food for thought, something to consider. Also to give yourself a bit of a pass when you find yourself feeling resistant to choicelessness and to letting go of either an opinion or a memory or a habit. Notice that part of what you're trying to do is to go against the grain of what your thinking mind wants to do, which is to cling to its apparent ability to choose whether to go left or right. I say apparent because upon deeper analysis, it's just not really there. But it clings to the apparent choice that it can make, and it can make our lives very, very difficult because that clinging also creates all kinds of discomforts in the body, and it makes you act in a very clunky type of way. So it's a natural thing. So the clinging to choice, to the illusion of choice, is a natural thing. It's a functional way also, especially in our development years, to learn how to navigate 3D reality. You need to choose A versus B. But as we want to develop and cultivate the mind to higher levels of flow, choice becomes a really clunky tool to use, and therefore the spiritual path, in a sense, is to choose and realize that we are in an arranged marriage with life. And if we want to flow with it, we simply have to let go of the idea that we could have chosen otherwise, which keeps poisoning the well and simply making us pretty unhappy in general. So I hope that is inspiring, that gives a certain angle to the topic. And as usual, I'll be back with more. Cheerio.